Hello, I'm Patrick Joyce, and I'll be reciting and explicating Shakespeare's Sonnet 103. Alack, what poverty my muse brings forth, that having such a scope to show her pride, the argument all bears of more worth than when it hath my added praise beside. Oh, blame me not if I no more can write. Look in your glass, and there appears a face that overgoes my blunt invention, quite dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Were it not sinful then, striving to mend, to mar the subjects that before was well? For to no other past my verses tend than of your graces and your gifts to tell. And more, much more, than in my verse can sit, your own glass shows you when you look in it. Sonnet 103 is written from the perspective of a poet. He begins the poem in stanza 1 by praising his muse. The muses, of course, are the Greek deities that were believed to inspire people to perform the arts, such as poetry. He's praising his muse because he realizes that the message he sends to his readers through his poetry is far inferior to the message that he receives as inspiration from his muse. The poet is saying that he has subpar poetry skills, essentially, and that while he's receiving beauty from his muse, he cannot effectively communicate that beauty in his poetry. The poet then goes on to address the readers directly in stanza 2. He tells them not to blame him if he stops writing, but only to blame themselves. The reason for this is that he believes they hold him to too high of a standard. As he said in stanza 1, he is not some incredible poet. He actually views himself as a poor poet. Yet his readers have such high expectations for him that when they read this poetry, they see it as far inferior than it is. He even goes as far as describing the attempt to change the beauty that the muse is sending him as sinful. And he also says in stanza 3 that he only writes about the graces and the gifts of humans, the human characteristics and their gifts. Now, this could be an earnest message to his readers, saying that he writes about their positive qualities and the talents that they have. It also could be a sarcastic line, meaning that he writes about their negative qualities and drawbacks, and that's why he is unliked. The couplet brings the whole poem together as it fuses all the ideas into two lines. He says that he is unable to communicate these characteristics and gifts completely effectively in his lines, but you can see it yourself by looking in the mirror. Shakespeare may have written this for a couple of reasons. One possibility is that he wanted to address his critics directly without being too direct. He's telling them that if they do not appreciate him and scrutinize every detail of his poetry, he might have to stop writing, which I think we would all agree the world would have been worse off for. Another possibility is that Shakespeare is addressing his audience. He's telling them to lower the bar, so to speak. And that way, since he knows that he is a good poet, unlike the poet in Sonnet 103, if the audience lowers the bar, then his poetry will look even better than before. Alack, what poverty my muse brings forth, that having such a scope to show her pride, the argument all bears of more worth than when it hath my added praise beside. Oh, blame me not if I no more can write. Look in your glass, and there appears a face that overgoes my blunt invention, quite dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Were it not sinful then, striving to mend, to mar the subject that before was well? For to no other past my verses tend than of your graces and your gifts to tell. And more, much more than in my verse can sit, your own glass shows you when you look in it. Thank you.